All right, so today we're going to talk about the new Redeemer and how it may be the perfect mercenary or private military contracting ship. I've brought Nash in from the video, The New Redeemer, who also has done videos on the Star Runner and various other things where he pulls out the models, goes through, and tries to pick them apart piece by piece so that way you guys, the viewers, can get an idea of what's going on in the Star Citizen development and what CIG just doesn't seem to actually want to share with us. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into some of the questions we have for him, and then kind of go into just some more talking about the ship itself. All right, Nash, first question. How much, if any, has the Redeemer grown compared to the old one?
Roughly, it's about 1 meter wider from the comparisons I've done, kind of using things like some of the weapons that are on the ship, taking the ones that are in the files, comparing them, and getting the little human that are in the files to compare it, and to compare the ship with the old one, obviously. But it's also about 45 meters long now.
And that's compared to its 37.5 original length. So it has grown some. Do you think it's grown in height at all? Does it seem taller in any way?
Uh, yeah, it is a little bit taller, not really too much. I'd say the wing, the little tail is really all that's increased the height,
Okay, so
because it's the wings are folded up now instead of down.
right. Okay. So it's grown a little bit, maybe about 20% in length or so, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, so I would say that's we kind of expected it to grow, or at least I did, because it was very cramped in that initial design. I'm hoping now that it's got the space it needs to really allow the players to move around freely. So hopefully that'll be there. All right, next question. What are the most notable exterior changes to the ship? Like, what has changed on the outside that you think is kind of important?
At first glance, people looking at this might not be able to really notice anything. That's kind of why I wanted to go more in depth on it, just to take a look around it, because a lot of it looks similar,
Hmm.
but there is a lot of little subtle changes to it. Cockpit's changed a little bit. You've got the little tail that's changed. It's flipped up, like I said. There's been some changes to the nacelles that we'll go into in a little bit.
Okay.
And it's not a whole lot else has changed. A lot of it they just kind of kept the same features from, which I'm kind of surprised.
So for people that loved the original version like I did, that it's still a faithful representation of what the Redeemer people originally backed, unlike some of the other ships that CIG has overhauled in the past, where they change everything or make it drastically different. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say this is a very faithful change on this one. It's
Uh,
just a little bit thick now.
a little bit thick. It seems like all their ships have been thick lately. All right. So we're gonna move on to the weapons now. Everybody loves weapons, so we'll go ahead and get into that. On the top and bottom turrets, have the weapons grown or stayed the same? Do they look bigger? Does anything look different about them, or what's going on there?
That's the confusing part, because the models that they're using on both the top and bottom man turrets are size 4 Revenants,
Hmm.
but these things are a lot bigger than the size 4 Revenants that are in the game.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the reason is why, because if you were to go off of what it looks like from the file that I drug up, you'd think it'd be like size 5s. These things are massive compared to a regular size 4, so these could be just a placeholder for a new size 5, or maybe they just screwed something up whenever they brought in the Revenants and put them on the turret.
Maybe. Okay, so it could potentially be between a 3 and a 5, is what you're saying, based on the model itself.
I'd think more between a 4 and a 5.
Okay, so if the turrets it had four, I mean just fours alone, that would give it some serious firepower. Not in, if it went up to size fives, this thing would be devastating. That's for sure. All right, next question. What are your thoughts on the rear turret? And what size do you think it could be? Do you think it could be manned, automated, or remote? What are your thoughts here?
That's another confusing one. I know the guns that are on there right now are 100% size 3 M5As because the barrel on the M5As stick out of the shroud of the gun, and it's the only variant of the M5 series that does this. So and I've taken the actual guns out of the files and compared them. It's the exact same size. Those are 100% M5As on the front and rear remote turrets.
Okay, so
Let's see.
size.
Say remote turrets. Go ahead.
Oh, so what I'm thinking is size threes on that rear alone are pretty good. I mean, I was thinking they'd be size ones or twos, but that rear gun set has some serious firepower, especially when going up against ground targets. So you were saying you think they're remote?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're remote. Remote. The only reason I'm not 100% sure is because for some reason there's a model of a manned turret in the geometry of the remote turret on that tail turret, and I'm just not sure why that is. It's something CIG did, so who knows? Maybe they screwed up and added that, or they're in the middle of deciding of what to do with that turret. Because I don't know how you'd be able to enter that turret
Yeah,
from where it's at the end.
I agree. It does not look like the ship interior moves into that tail section, so I would assume it's remote with the possibility in the future when blades come in to be automated in some way.
Which would also bring into question who would use that. Does that mean there's a new station for somebody to sit at?
Right, because that would push the Redeemer up to a crew of 4 at that point because you have the two turrets and the pilot and the rear turret gunner. But knowing CIG, they would say it's a 2-man ship and you just gotta decide which turrets you want to use. So next question. For the front guns, are they all gimbaled? Are they a mix? And what sizes do you think they are?
The very front guns?
Yeah, the two that are stacked there.
Oh, out at the front. The
Yeah.
ones that nobody knows what they are.
Yeah, those.
So those I found out are gallants and tactical weapons, which also make the was it the Scorpion and the Mantis and Yellow Jacket Gatlings? They also make the Tarantulas.
Okay. So
Now the reason I say that is because the model that we see at the front of the ship is exactly the same as a size 3 Tarantula that's currently in the game. It's just it has 2 barrels instead of 1, and it is considerably larger than the size 3 Tarantula, even though for some reason the bore size on these guns are smaller than the size 3 Tarantulas.
okay, so could they potentially be a smaller auto repeating cannon of some sort?
I think I'm pretty sure that these are going to be ballistic repeaters because I mean you can see the little drum mag thing there.
Right, I'm looking at it
And
now. I
with the
definitely
bore
see that.
size, yeah, with the bore size being smaller too, that makes me lean more towards ballistic repeater.
Okay. And that turret that's under the chin, do you think that's pilot controlled or do you think that's yet another station?
I, I mean, I'm gonna have to speculate on that one, but if I had to guess, I'd say pilot controlled.
Okay, same. It looks like something say a Super Hornet or a Mustang would have. It's just a more gimbaled version. Now, do you have any indication on if those guns, the auto repeaters you spoke of, if those are fixed or gimbaled, or do you think they have gimbals, or what's going on there?
Well, on this model, there's no little gimbal pucks, as they call them,
Mm-hmm.
visible at all. So it seems like they're fixed. And
Okay.
due to the size of them, because I mean, if you just look at those M3As that are right next to it compared to those, these things could honestly be size 5.
Okay.
And I would
Well,
assume that they are fixed size 5, so you could go down to a gimbaled size 4, things like that.
well, at least they can be swapped out more than likely, unlike the Vanguard, where you're stuck with that gimbaled fixed loadout.
Yeah, I think CIG's learned their lesson to not ever do that again.
We can hope here. All right, so next question. As far as you can tell, is there anywhere or have you noticed a place for missiles, or does the Redeemer just not have missiles now?
The missiles is one thing that definitely has not changed, because in the past it was underneath where the intakes are. There's like a little drop down system,
Okay.
something like that. I know in the past it was 8 times size 2 missiles. I
Yes, there
have
was two size 4 mounts before.
yeah, I have no idea what kind of missiles it would be. I just assume that maybe some size 3s would probably be the largest you could put on there because the housing little area is so small,
Okay. So
kind of like how the Hornet does.
right, right. So it still does have missiles. All right. So next, on to flight and landing. Does the Redeemer have any sort of VTOL? We know VTOL has become a very important thing in the game. It's going to get more important as time goes on and more flight model stuff come in. Does it have VTOL?
So that was something that I was very shocked to find. Apparently, I'm like the only one. That yes, it does have VTOL on the very bottom of each nacelle.
Okay. So it's got its on the bottom of the nacelles, it's got the VTOL, but as far as you can tell, the nacelles don't rotate like the cutlasses do to point downwards. Instead, they fire downwards in some way, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the nacelles could rotate if they wanted them to. It's not restricted in that kind of way. But with the little VTOL thrusters on the bottom of the nacelles, there'd really not be much reason for them to do that.
Okay. And so since it looks like from what you can tell, it has VTOL, does it have a way to continue to fly forward while hovering? So potentially being able to hover in atmosphere and provide heavy gun support to ground targets?
Yes, so unlike the Cutlass, which is notorious for being terrible whenever you have your VTOL mode on because it has no fixed rear-facing engines, this thing has 6 of them. So it has 2 mains and then 4 little ones in the nacelles. So you could still move forward while you're in VTOL mode, and you absolutely need to have that. And that's something I really don't like about the Cutlass,
Okay.
is that it does not have that.
So this would actually make an awesome, say, AC 130 style gunship in the future.
Hopefully.
Cool. So let's kind of move on. Overall, with all the weapons and the way this ship is designed, how do you think this could perform in a mercenary or private military contractor role? Do you think it fills a niche we don't have currently, or do you think it excels in a certain area? What do you think is, really great about it?
It's kind of hard to judge the whole ship right now since we don't know all the metrics for the interior. We know it's going to have some sort of cargo capability,
Right.
and it should have that boarding hatch on the bottom,
Okay.
things like that. As far as I know from a weapons perspective, this thing obliterates the Vanguard in terms of firepower.
Right. Yeah. It definitely seems like that. It seems like this thing can be as deadly as the Vanguard when piloted solo, but at least from what we're seeing, if it's fully crewed, this thing is going to be a monster to deal with in terms of medium ship sized, you know, in that area. So, and it's got the cargo, it's got the boarding hatch. We know it can drop troops. So essentially, this thing can cover a wide range of roles for those, would-be mercenaries out there who want to get into mercenary work or upgrade from something like a Cutlass and are looking for something that can, really take a punch, give a punch. It's Aegis, so it'll probably be pretty durable. This seems like that ship that is going to become kind of the next tier staple for combat-oriented multi-crew players in that looking for something in that medium category. Would you agree?
Yeah. And I would say that although it doesn't physically have the boarding hatch modeled right now, which would most likely be on the belly of the ship, we know that it was in the dialogue that was shown at Invictus launch week, along with
Right.
the cargo mention.
Right. Yeah, that boarding hatch, as far as I know, I don't know any other ships that have a dedicated boarding hatch. It'll be really interesting to see what that boarding hatch will entail, if it will clamp onto the ship and blow the docking collar or anything like that. Who knows? The sky's the limit right now. But next, how far along do you think the ship is compared to other models of complete ships and not complete ships? You know, how much has been done to this ship in comparison to, those?
Well, whenever I bring in another ship, like in the Star Runner video I made, that was almost just one complete model, like one whole unit. It wasn't a bunch of pieces put together like the Redeemer is in that video. So it just tells me that the ship is a lot further along. It's not just one huge rough block out.
Okay, so if I was to force you to speculate a patch date this would come out with, what would you bet your money on?
Well, seeing as how they've obviously been working on the ship and not telling us, and they like to release ships, at a surprise, and the Aegis family of ships has so much work already done that they can pretty much slap these things together as much as they want in a fast time. I'm thinking probably not 3.10, maybe 3.11.
Okay,
They're
cool.
gonna just as a surprise.
All right. I think that's all the questions we have. We're gonna both me and Nash will be around to answer questions or talk with you guys more on this ship and others. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and then comment below any questions you have. If you'd like us to look more into the files and see if we can find anything, of course we'll do that. Or if there's other things you want us to look for, just let us know down in the comments. But now I'm gonna let Nash go ahead and plug his channel because he's got some awesome videos, not only done, but coming up in the future. Go ahead.
You can check out the link below to go to my channel. I recently resurrected my channel because I know I haven't posted in about 2 years. Just because people like Teller, nothing against them, it's just they stopped posting videos showing models of ships and stuff like that. They're in the files that we didn't necessarily have access to. So I just want to start doing that for everybody.
Cool. That sounds really great. Yeah, I'll make sure his link is in the description below. Go and check out his videos. They're really awesome, and they're showing you guys stuff that CIG is currently working on that they're not showing us. So if you want to see some stuff that's kind of behind the curtain a little bit, check out his channel to see the model overviews and all of that. And then we're going to start coming over here and discussing more in depth, more talk style like this, what we see and what he thinks is going on here. Other than that, I stream on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 8:30 Central. Come by, hang out. I play various games, Star Citizen. I play Hell Let Loose mostly, and maybe some other games. So we'll see you around, and there'll be more videos up soon.